G'day. This week marks the first anniversary of my piano journey. So it's 52 weeks ago. Today is the start of the 53rd week, so 1 year anniversary. And so I thought I'd have a look back at where I've come from in terms of that year's worth of work. So this is going to be a bigger review than my usual one, because I've got a few things I've thought about and want to cover off. So I just sort of logged down for posterity, as it were. So anyway, I've had 42 lessons since then, and I went back and had a look at the first one, and it's pretty clear that I've made some progress, so I think that's a good start. First lesson was on the 3rd of May in 2023, so that's the starting point. And I can now read music, although I suspect it's more a case of being at the level of reading a little golden book rather than reading Shakespeare, but it still is progress. For instance, it was only a couple of days ago during practice, actually, that I made the leap from having to, well, in the past practice, it got to the point where I'd actually memorised the piece. And so I'd be watching my fingers as I was playing to make sure I was putting them on the right keys. But last week, I made the next sort of leap in progress, as it were, and got to the point where I could actually play the piece without looking at my fingers. So I was actually reading the music. And fingers were doing what they needed to do, and I was able to play the entire piece once without looking at my fingers, which I thought was quite neat. It's quite cool. So quite pleased about that. That's a big step. So anyway, so got that reading right. So on the subject of pieces, initially when I started out, I was just doing 1 or 2 bar snippets. So you just need to play the notes, sort of thing, and that's in a tutor book. But once I moved from doing sort of 1 or 2 bar pieces in tutor books and on to actually learning pieces, I started keeping track of what I was doing and how many I was learning, etc. So I've covered 37 pieces actually, to be fair, I'm working on number 36 and 37 at the moment in that period of time. Which is quite good, I thought. Obviously, the pieces are easy, so as I progress through, they're going to get harder and going to take longer to learn. For example, there was a grade 1 piece early on there. I haven't gone back and checked how long it took me to learn that, but I was practicing that for 10 plus weeks, as I recall. So as the pieces get harder, they will sit in my pieces I'm learning category, if you like, for longer. So I expect the number will go down, but obviously you're playing more complicated pieces and you're progressing, so it's a swinging around roundabouts type situation, so not much to worry about there, but I don't expect to be able to do 37 pieces in the next year. So one of my goals, though, when I started out, right back at the start in lesson 1, is I wanted to be able to play some pieces from Jane's Garden Party book, and this is the first book that she wrote long time ago now, to basically provide specific exercises to increase learning and ability of young pianists like myself. So I was quite keen, and some of them are actually really quite cool pieces, so I was quite keen to play them. And anyway, I'm on the last one, so I've progressed through. I haven't played all of them, but I've probably played 80% of them, learned to play 80% of them. Which is pretty good, and so I'm quite happy about that. There's a goal I've achieved. The last one I'm working on there is Dig Those Earthworms, so I haven't done a performance of that yet, but it'll probably get covered off in today's lesson. Right, so in terms of all the musical goals, when I started this journey, I actually had multiple goals. Some were musical, some were not musical. I'm a big fan of leverage, where you do one thing and you get multiple benefits out of it, or multiple value from it. And so piano was an activity I was taking on with that in mind. In terms of the musical goals, I've achieved all bar one of them. And the one that I haven't achieved, I don't think I can claim, is in relation to scales. There's still one white key minor scale, it's F minor, that was on my list to learn over the 12 months, and I haven't been taught it yet. But that's not really that big a deal in the big scheme of things. The reason I've sort of put this one on the fail or the miss category, if you like, is because I don't really feel as though if James was to say, can you play me a D minor scale, I would have to think about it. If I could play it at all, I'd have to feel my way through it. So they're not under the fingers, is the point I'm making. And so from my perspective, that's not achieved, but well, there's scales, and who can get excited about scales, really? So I'll try and do better next year. I believe they're important. Well, I've been told they're important, and I'm starting to sort of see that some areas where they're of use, but there's just much more interesting things to play, to be honest. So it's a bit of an effort to make myself do the scales, but I'll try and improve on that. So in January, I got smarter about tracking and planning the practice. Up until that point, I'd been putting the time in, but I'd been mainly sort of coming to the session saying, okay, well, what do I feel like playing today, sort of thing. And scales obviously hadn't been factoring very highly in that, and neither had sight reading, although I'd done a little bit of sight reading practice. So they've been basically about taking the pieces that I was learning and putting the time into just practicing them. And about January, I thought, okay, I need to get a bit smarter about this. And so I developed a tracking sheet, which is this, basically. So that's what it looks like there. And the intent of that was to start to randomize the selection of sight reading pieces. Because basically there's a book that's got a lot of sight reading pieces in it, and they're all about 4 or 5 bars long, and you had to pick a number, etc. And I'd keep forgetting what I'd done last time because it had been so long since I'd done one, sort of thing. So I started to the sheet randomizes those, tells me which one I need to play today. It puts in specific times for practicing scales, which up until the last couple of weeks I'd actually been doing. And we've also developed a randomized system for selecting scales, so that I know I'm getting through them in a cycle, as it were, rather than inadvertently picking D harmonic minor every time. Not that I even know how to play that at the moment, but anyway. The tracking and the planning was about trying to get a bit smarter about breaking down the time that I spend in practice, so that it's focusing on all elements of learning the piano rather than just the bits that I enjoy. It's been largely successful, actually. It's worked pretty well. It's on its second iteration. The first iteration was a bit different than the one I just showed you before. So I iterated that and made some improvements after I tried that for a month or two, and actually probably just a month, actually, because I think I've had this one for about 2-3 months now. So that's where that's at. So that's the practicing. Right here. So sort of now moving on to some of the other sort of goals that I had, and one of them, one of the things I'm considering doing regarding my practice and tracking is developing a mobile app for it. I'm a software developer, so one of the things that I've never done before is mobile development. I'm developing something for your phone or a tablet, this while the tracking sheet works well, there's still a couple of things I'd like to be able to do with it, and I can do those better in code than I can in Excel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see about leveraging the Piano Journey in Year 2 to developing the phone app, so developing my skills in mobile development. So that'll be a nice thing to do, and it'll also be useful for me in terms of ongoing managing of the practice, etc. So that's the plan there. Some of the other skills I wanted to learn about YouTube. I'd never had a YouTube channel before, and I don't do social media, so I know pretty much squat about that. And to be honest, I really have bugger all interest in learning about it. But I've got a couple of software projects on the go that in about 12 months, hopefully a bit less, but in about 12 months, are going to need me to be developing the marketing materials for those, and I'm going to need to be doing some stuff in social media and with YouTube. So this was a good opportunity to get the basics of YouTube out of the way, so they don't make rookie mistakes, as it were, where it's important, and to learn about video editing, etc. So I've learned a couple of new video editing tools over the year. Got one that I'm reasonably happy with now. I've learnt quite a little bit about, trying to make sure I'm looking at the screen. I need to get better at not mumbling, so that'll be a goal for next year. But things like that. In terms of marketing on YouTube, I have no interest in developing this channel and building subscribers. If people want to come along, that's fine by me. If they don't, it's fine by me too. It's not, as I said in the about box, this channel is primarily for me. It's a record of my lessons. It's for me to go back and have a look at and to determine whether I've made any improvement or not, and to in some way provide some accountability. So even though I never really expected, well, to be honest, I never expected many people to subscribe as I have. I think it's about sort of 50 something at the moment, but which seems very surprising to me for this channel. But anyway, so there's some accountability there. I've got 50 people checking in semi-regularly, I guess. And so even when I don't feel like writing or doing a video or putting something out, I put the effort in and do it, and it just keeps me moving along. So it's achieved that goal as well, which is one of the things it was to do. Obviously, the marketing side of it's something that I'll have to sort of leave for later, because, as I said, I've got no interest in doing any marketing for this channel. So that's that. I also wanted to develop my mental skills. So being very much left brain dominant, I also do quite a lot of creative work, which is sort of right brain work. But my right brain and my left brain, are obviously probably at different strengths in terms of how they apply to a problem. And so I wanted to try and build up that right brain a bit more. Piano is meant to stimulate both sides of the brain at the same time. So if you look at me when I'm playing, you'll see that it's quite an effort to actually try and make my fingers do what my brain's telling me them to do. And it's hard to actually measure progress on that. But looking back at the lesson one and some of the lessons in the early part of the journey, and looking at where I'm at now, there's quite a change there as well, which is good. So I'm going to put down that as an achievement, although there's obviously still quite a bit of work to be done on that score. So I'm certainly better off, or better off in a lot of ways than I was a year ago with this journey, which is great. It's been a good first year. Some of the lessons were quite hard, and Jane pushed me a bit on those lessons. But she's been a wonderful teacher. Outside the lessons, it's never an issue if I don't feel like doing any practice. She's not nagging me or anything like that. It's up to me to decide to do the practice or not. And most of the time, it's quite an enjoyable process. So, I want to come in and do the practice, and that's down to her, her teaching, as it were, and her encouragement and support along the way. So that's been really great. So really good to have somebody like that. I don't think I'd have made as much progress if I was just trying to learn from YouTube. So it's good to have that sort of that one-on-one contact, if you like. So that's a plug for teaching. If you're interested in a piano teacher, check out Jane and get yourself on her waiting list. The practice, I've averaged about 2 to 3 hours of practice a week, which is a bit more than I actually intended. When I started out, Jane thought that about 15 minutes would be a good sort of practice time, but I very quickly, within about week one, I was into doing half an hour practice, and it's pretty good. Yeah. And it's probably, I think, it's paid off, I think, in terms of where I'm at, which is good as well. So I'll just keep doing that. I haven't set any new goals for the next year at this point, other than maybe putting that third iteration of the tracking sheet onto an app. But in terms of musical goals, I haven't set any of those. So I'll be looking at those over the next probably week and then deciding where I'm going. Probably set some sort of intermediate goals for 6 months as well, and then see where we go from there. So that's the review for the year. Year 1. Now starting year 2.